Hi, everyone. Good morning. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Melissa Hereford, the founder of Negotiate with Confidence. And I want to welcome you all on this beautiful Tuesday morning to the series Confident Conversations, where I am talking with smart people like my guest today about topics related to all the things that are important to us in our lives: communication, negotiation, psychology, success, mindset, happiness, and of course, love. My guest today is Kelly Gushue, founder and CEO of Personal Finance Warrior. We are talking money. Kelly is an amazing, inspiring woman who is out there empowering women all over the world to invest and take action on managing your personal finances. And she does this through her online courses and coaching. Now, Kelly holds workshops for companies. So if you need a speaker or someone to teach you about finances in your company, Kelly is your gal. And she also works with women's groups and alumni groups. Kelly has worked in several areas of finance, including portfolio construction, investment management, investment research, and so much more. She holds an AB from Harvard College and an MBA from the Booth School of Business at the University of Chicago, the cold part of the world. So Kelly, I'm so glad to have you with us today. Welcome.
Hi, Melissa. So excited to be here. We get to talk about money.
Yay, money. It's something we love when we have it and we hate when we don't. We all have that in common. So, okay, I'm going to kick us off and just get real, Kelly. I'm going to tell some hard truth here. Are you ready? Like many of the women that you work with, I have a love-hate relationship with my finances. So when I go to look at my investment decisions in my 401k or my Roth IRA, or really any time when I have to make what feel like really big choices, my eyes kind of roll back in my head. I get overwhelmed, and it feels like no matter what I do, I don't know enough to make the right choices. So oftentimes, honest moment here, I end up doing nothing, which is not really a great way to manage my money. So kick us off with a little advice about is that normal? What are some things that I should be doing differently?
Sure. And Melissa, it is so common for you and lots of other women to feel that way. And Melissa, I focus on women, so I'm going to talk about some of the feedback that I've heard from women and some of the strategies that I recommend. And I'll tell you why I focus on women. There are three main reasons. So number one is women live 8 years longer. And so we need our money to last longer.
Wow.
Number two, your expertise, Melissa, is the gender pay gap is real. Yeah. Women make 82 cents on the dollar, and we're actually going to have Equal Pay Day coming up April 10th, which is the number of extra days women need to work in the next calendar year to make up for what men made in the previous year. So that number is real. And Melissa, you are doing your part to advise people on negotiating. And in my online course, which includes investing and retirement, I also talk about negotiating since it's so important. And the third reason is women often take time off for children and to take care of elderly parents. Mm-hmm. And so when you talk about that, there are so many decisions. The reality is there are. And that's why online resources are so important. Yeah. That's why finding individuals that you connect with who are providing insights and tips. So for example, I have Facebook videos 3 times a week where I am offering tips and suggestions and insights, as well as on my email list. On Facebook, I actually also have a community group where people get to share information. So I think identifying experts, including you, Melissa, about negotiating, because the learning is an ongoing process, right?
Yes, it is. I put Kelly's Facebook page up on the screen for those of you who are watching. Give us a thumbs up because Kelly is a woman you want to follow when it comes to finding people who you relate to and who are trustworthy. So often, Kelly, I find that people have this sheen of like almost untouchable, like you're up on this pedestal and you know everything about finances. And it kind of puts me off a little bit. So what I love about you, and I've been following Kelly for quite some time, and she and I have lots of conversations about business and money and finances. I also follow her Facebook page because she's so approachable, knowledgeable and approachable, and you want both. So go on over to her Facebook page and follow her so you can get her advice and tips.
And Melissa, I'll just add why personal finance is so personal for me is when I was 3 years old, my mom needed to leave my father. And so she took the 4 of us kids, she relocated to another city. And at that time, she was frozen out of the bank accounts. And so for 2 years, our family struggled. And the story that stays with me is it was December when she moved. And when we moved to Boston, and it was right before Christmas. And one day a delivery of toys appeared on our doorstep. And in Boston, that's called Globe Santa. And there are other toy delivery services in other cities. And my mom, the humble woman that she is, she called up Globe Santa and said, I think there's been a mistake. There's a delivery of toys.
Wow.
And I'm not sure who this is for. And they responded that we heard about your situation and a neighbor called so that your children would have toys this Christmas.
Wow,
and
that is a powerful story, Kelly. I mean, hit the like button if you can relate to this, as our country, I think, is 50% or more divorce rate. And without having a grip on our finances, it really does leave us vulnerable. If you're letting someone else in your life, be it your husband or your wife or anyone else, do all of the finances, I'm kind of guilty of this, honestly. And I'm changing what I'm going to be doing going forward based on what you just told me, because you need to have it more of a partnership to understand where your money is and how to get into your accounts. Now, you do a little date night. Tell us about your idea for date night finances.
Sure. And so with that story, so that instilled in me the importance of financial independence and financial partnership. And so what I recommend is a finance date night, a monthly finance date night. So there's an opportunity to make it fun. And what the structure is you set up, and ideally you schedule it in your calendar. So I do a finance date night for myself, and I do it on the 15th. And so around the 15th, but I schedule it and I set aside 2 hours, because the first half hour, you're just going to be piddling around, right? Let's be real.
Pouring a glass of wine, maybe.
And
setting up the appetizers.
And so whether it's a glass of wine, your favorite takeout food, but you want to make it so that you are willing to, engage. And so what you want to do is check your accounts. We had that Equifax breach in the fall, where there's a lot of information out there that's at risk. So we just want to make sure that we're checking our accounts. We then want to check in with our financial goals. And especially with your partner, when you do it together, there's just an opportunity to review your accounts, make sure everything's okay, but really to communicate about your personal finances and about your goals. Where are you going? And this could be, what's the next vacation? This could be, are there home improvements that we want to think about? For people who are thinking of who the next step is a down payment for a house, what are we doing to take those steps? So that's why the finance date night can be such a valuable structure.
And how do you add an element of fun into that? Because I think a lot of people think, oh gosh, I have to sit down and look at my finances. And if I just pretend like that problem isn't there, or that I'm not spending too much money on that 50% off friends and family sale at Banana Republic that I didn't go to this time. If I just wasn't spending so much money, and if I pretend like that's not there, I can not face it. So what do you suggest to people to overcome that roadblock?
Yes. And Melissa, that concern, especially about spending, is real. and there are lots of concerns about each spouse when they sit down and they start doing these finance date nights, because you start to have real conversations about spending, where the money is going. So some suggestions for how to make it fun. We talked about getting a special food. So what is either one of your favorite foods, so that you can at least be eating enjoyable food. I would try to include a success story each month when you're doing it, so that you're planning around a success story. So maybe somebody got a promotion or a raise, or you bought something really exciting, like it was time to buy this next product. And it could be whether it's like a refrigerator or a dishwasher, or it could be something for the home, because sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
But to plan it around a success story, rather than what people have so much often feel dread about, the mistakes that they're making or what they're not doing, but to think about also a goal, and whether it's a goal or just an event or activity coming up. So are you going to a friend's wedding or a family wedding that you're actually really looking forward to? A vacation that you get to talk about that you're really excited about, a concert that maybe you got tickets for. So when you can include that element of an event or activity that is exciting, that shifts the energy, that it's not just about making sure that you're not making mistakes, but that you're also incorporating a fun event or activity. And for those out there, if you haven't yet, if you don't have a fun activity or an event, the finance date night is a great way to incorporate that, because as humans, we always want to look forward to a fun event or activity.
Yes, totally. Give us a thumbs up if you're going to do give us a like if you're watching this live, if you're going to do a date night. I think it's a great idea. And I love this idea of integrating some fun into it, because I tend to be the austerity person in my family, where it's like, we're short on money this month, therefore we can do nothing, which really is like not a very fun way to live. But my husband balances me out really nicely by saying, listen, we have ups and downs. We're both, freelancers, and next month is going to be better. We still have to integrate some fun into our lives. So maybe even taking on some roles where, if you tend to be more austere, allow your partner that kind of freedom to have that moment of happiness around something that is positive, because it does have lasting consequences and impact on your day-to-day life and your family and your home. So I love what you're saying, Kelly. This is such a great idea. I hope that everybody's going to use this. Make a comment if you have an idea that you'd like to share with everybody about how you're going to integrate a financial date night into your life.
And a couple of more points, Melissa. So if you haven't tried this before, and this is a new idea for your household, what I would suggest is, when there is a situation that is a positive event. So whether you are buying something and you got a great bargain, whether someone comes home with good news about their job, but when you can think about it in a positive context and then say, hey, what would be great is if we could talk about this in more detail and how it impacts our whole financial planning picture, rather than there was a breakdown, there was a problem where, something, we have too high of a credit card bill. So that may come from a problem. But if you can introduce the idea with, again, a positive situation with a success story, you can then create it in that spirit of, we want to acknowledge the positive events, because it's much easier for us to think about what we're not doing or the mistakes that we're not doing. So I also want to encourage people out there, if this is a new idea for your household, that's a way to introduce it.
Okay, I love that idea. That's really great. Now, Kelly, I know that you talk about so many different components of finances on your Facebook page and in your courses and your coaching. Can you give us some tips that we can take away and use right away that will help us? I mean, we talked about financial date night, which I love, but there are a lot of people also who are on their own. And I love that you also said, have a financial date night with yourself, just to sit down.
Single or household, absolutely.
Exactly.
I'm not married yet, and absolutely a finance date night I recommend
Yes.
for everybody. Because some people think, oh, well, I'm married, so it's more complicated, and that's why it's for
Right.
everybody.
Yes, and I love that. So what are a couple of other tips, things that you see coming up with the women that you work with that will help us right away when we leave this conversation?
Sure. Well, we are in tax season, tax planning time, or tax planning meeting, planning to pay or to take care of our taxes. And I want to provide some helpful tips that are action oriented here.
Oh, that's great.
So, oftentimes when people are doing their taxes based on division of labor, one person will take the lead for house, and we'll talk about households. And one person will say, here, honey, can you sign the tax documents? And you often don't read that 10 to 15 page document,
Right.
and you just sign, and likely your spouse reviewed the details because that may be their responsibility.
Yes.
And I want to refer to my top 10 warrior rules. They're on my website. And rule number 9 is know where all the household accounts are. And as I told you, this is that number 9 is a special place in my heart because it's critical for spouses in the household to know where the household accounts are. And what's fantastic about tax time is you get a detailed list of the different accounts. So not only how much money each person is bringing in, but, and you may not know this, it has a list of the investments. It has a list of the retirement plans, how much is in the retirement plans. So for example, on the W-2 form, if you and your spouse are contributing to a retirement plan at work, it lists that. And again, by going through these details, and Kelly, how would I know this? You learn this by, say, listening to a video or reading an article online. This isn't something that's general knowledge. And here, there's just an opportunity for tax time to review those tax documents to get a better understanding of those accounts.
That's a great idea. I love it, Kelly, because it's so simple and it's something that you have to do anyway. And it's all right there for you. So you could make a copy of that. You could know where it's being filed, and you're just going through at a high level to see where everything is. So that's something I'm going to start doing right away.
Love that. And just as a follow-up is, so with the 401k plan, which is the retirement plan at a company, a 403b if you're at an organization, that document can allow you, especially during this date night structure, to review what choices you're making in that 401k plan. How much are you allocating? Because do you really know how much your spouse is allocating? Is it 5%? Is it 10%? Usually that's a range. Do you know what the matching is available? So what I pose to my audience is, and on this call, I want to ask people, do you know how much you're allocating to your 401k or 403b plan? And does your company have matching? Are you aware of what that range is? So that's another action item. And for those who already know that, during tax time, to have that communication with your spouse so that you are more aware. So one caveat with that is, oh, Kelly, we talk about it, and he told me that this is the percentage and this is how much he has. Well, tax time is a great way to actually see those numbers.
And hopefully they match.
And so that you just have that reality check, because there are always those stories. On my Facebook page, I have a posting about an article of a couple sold their house. They relocated to a new city. And while the husband and wife, the husband was responsible for the investment side during that transition. And it turned out that during their meetings talking about personal finance, he was giving information that wasn't accurate. And the $500,000 they put aside, he ended up losing all of that money.
So awful.
And so those are real stories that happen.
Right.
So that's where finance date nights and tax time are great opportunities to come together to talk about and communicate about money in a really effective way.
I want to say something about that, Kelly, because we often say, oh, my spouse would never do that. But here's the truth. We do things that we don't expect to do when we're living in a place of fear or shame. So I actually do have friends who, out of a place of shame, maybe someone lost their job and didn't tell their spouse that they lost their job, or withdrew money from their 401k because they were absolutely sure they'd be able to pay it back. And they were so desperate because they were ashamed of their financial situation that they didn't tell their spouse. And they thought, I can make it up. I can make this happen. She'll never know, or he'll never know. And we act in a way that is not rational. So it's not that your spouse is necessarily intentionally being dishonest. A lot of times it comes from this place of very intense fear, guilt, and shame. And that can happen to any of us, even those of us who think I would never do that, or my spouse would never do that. And it's better to just be aware and be partners moving forward than to be surprised.
And absolutely, Melissa. And that's why, first of all, we never think we're going to get divorced, right?
Right. We wouldn't get married if we thought we were going to get divorced.
So you don't think that's going to happen. And just as you said, the unthinkable happens because of fears that are triggered in different situations. Yeah. And so what is great about some of the ideas that we talked about today is when things are great, this is the time to have to start these types of or incorporate these types of structures, even talking about your taxes. So when things are great, if you are concerned, it's even more critical. But what I suggest, because some people say things are great, I don't need to worry about things. We have a division of labor, and you want to do things in advance of the unthinkable. Right. So when that situation happened with my family, neighbors, family members were completely shocked that that it was possible for my father to freeze my mom out of the bank accounts. And that was just a hugely emotional situation. His family was at stake, right? And so that's just where rule number 9, when you know where all the household accounts are, you're in financial partnership. And I'm just a big advocate for financial partnership. And as we started off talking, Melissa, I love talking about money. And in my videos and in my communication, I want to encourage women especially to feel more comfortable to talk about money so that they're communicating about it and they're engaged about the various topics with it.
I love that. I love it, Kelly. You've given us some really solid ideas for things that we can do that feel manageable. And I'm going to go off right now and go review my tax document that I signed without reading. So honestly, I mean, I think I'm a pretty in control of my life woman, but I do exactly what you just said. So I'm going to go review that tax document. Now, I'm going to summarize and put onto my website these tips. So if you're watching this later, after the fact, go to melissahereford.com. The website address is right up on your screen, and you can download a tip sheet from the amazing tips that Kelly has given to us. You can also find Kelly at her website, personalfinancewarrior.com. Kelly teaches an amazing course for you personal finance warriors out there that is getting ready to start in April. And I'll say more about that on the website, and you can go check that out. So Kelly, take us out here. Is there anything you'd like to share with our viewers about what you're doing or where they can get more information from you?
Sure. So I provide a lot of information in my Facebook community group. So there's an opportunity for you on my Facebook page, which Melissa has included, Finance Warrior. So I do Facebook Live videos and I post articles. And actually on Sunday, the New York Times published an article about how women need to step up and more boldly claim their financial power. And they gave different scenarios of how really society hasn't been encouraging women to claim their financial power. Yeah. And that is what I stand for. And Melissa, you asked the question, what can women do? It's just ongoing learning and training. Mm-hmm. And I try to provide helpful resources in that community group. So I'd love to see you. So you can just sign up, and then I get to improve you and welcome you into the group. And men and women are welcome into that group.
Yeah, you do definitely strongly empower women, but every advice, tidbit, and valuable learning opportunity is absolutely applicable to the men out there who are watching as well. So you are invited as well. It's a very inclusive group. So Kelly, thank you so much for being on our series, Confident Conversations. And we will see you all next week. Thanks for joining live if you're here. And for those of you who are watching later, be sure to download your free worksheet on my website at melissahereford.com. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks everybody.
Kelly. Thanks, Kelly.